Hi there, I'm Sipka, and this is the Apatros Review. Now in this episode we take a look at, this is actually a year in review, at the year 2021. So now that we are safely in the year 2022, having seen off the last of what can be safely considered the worst year we've had yet. Although the question of whether 2022 will be even worse is going to be an open question until we've gotten through at least 75% of this year. Anyway, I'm going to give an honest appraisal of what 2021 meant for the human race. For us Aussies, 2021 has been, and pardon me Deutsch, an absolute bastard of a year. Even worse than 2020 if such a thing was possible. We went into 2021 believing we would have the coronavirus beaten down by at least a halfway point, but we had underestimated the potency of the virus, the debatable effectiveness of the various corona vaccines, and the absolute thirst for power that the state premiers and the sadistic health advisors seem to have. The Indian-originated Delta strain of the coronavirus took grasp in my hometown of Fairfield in southwestern Sydney, causing politicians from elsewhere to call us a hot zone, and the former New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian promptly sealed us off from the rest of the state with very severe restrictions. We were treated like shit, and such we the people of Fairfield will never forget the way we were treated. As for the vaccines, while I'm not going to debate the effectiveness of the vaccines, since that seems to be something of a taboo topic in most places, I will state the following. The decision as to whether to take a vaccine rests purely within the individual. Everyone has the right to decide as to whether they want to take the vaccine or not. Nobody can be forced, coerced, or intimidated into taking something they don't want, as doing so is a breach of our human rights. The way people were treated by being practically coerced by having some of the restrictions removed depending on the person's vaccination status was a purely idiotic idea, and a sign of the despotic system. Just so you know, I am not an anti-vaxxer, but there are plenty of us who do not feel like placing our trust in a vaccine that has been designed on untested technology, and the deadly side effect of the AstraZeneca vaccine, which most people seem to be aware of, didn't do the program much good either. The media's actions in tarring the vaccine hesitant with the same brush they use on the true anti-vaxxers was utterly despicable, especially since there seemed to be reports of a rising death toll attributed to the vaccines. Another thing to consider is that despite being vaccinated, many people were still getting sick and still dying from COVID-19, which only adds to the detrimental attitude to the vaccine program. Vaccine mandates are an utterly despicable thing to consider, and I hope that the Australian government doesn't go down that path, as mandating people to get a vaccine they don't necessarily believe in will erode public trust and destroy our faith in the people we elect to serve us. Anyway, elsewhere in the world, 2021 was the first year of what can be safely considered the very worst administration the Americans have ever seen, the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Nancy Pelosi administration. I mention Nancy Pelosi because she's pretty much the one running the show. Only a couple months into their term, Biden's utter cognitive decline and the many gaffes he committed, like farting in front of Duchess Camilla, or repeatedly checking his watch during the repatriation ceremony of the bodies of the 13 US Marines killed by an ISIS-K suicide bomber, a situation Biden entirely was responsible for, which I'll get into momentarily, both of which were highly disrespectful of him and highly unbecoming behavior of an elected leader in public office. As the months go on, it becomes clear to even the most naive that Biden has no mental capacity, no matter how hard his puppet masters try to disguise this. Not to mention his constant claims of being in office for 120 years. For the lefties out there, you try to make sense of that behavior. As for the horrible situation in Afghanistan, Joe Biden has to take complete responsibility for the humanitarian disaster in that country. The Taliban are a clever foe, and since the Afghanis have the enviable military record of never being defeated in combat, they knew they only had to wait. But whereas Trump would have kept advisors in place to help the Afghani military use their equipment, the problem was, besides the fact that many Afghani military were simply not up to the standards expected of them, hell, according to anecdotal reports, many of them were junkies. Not surprisingly given Afghanistan's covert but lucrative side business of opium farming, that the Taliban were extremely patient, but they know when to take advantage of an opportunity beneficial to them. For anyone out there who thinks the Taliban can be trusted on the world stage, well, they can't. The Taliban are a murderous, morally regressive, misogynistic terrorist organization that has built up a reputation for treating women like lowly objects, brutally killing anyone they don't like, and even having no respect for cultural artifacts belonging to cultures they don't like, such as their infamous act of blowing the 7 shades of shit out of those ancient Buddha statues a year or two before the US 2001 invasion. Given the stories coming out of Afghanistan at the moment, I know they will never change their stripes, and the women of Afghanistan will suffer for what is going to be a long time to come, thanks to that massive idiot who calls himself Joe Biden. As for Biden's second in command, the Vice President Kamala Harris, she's even worse. Kamala Harris, judging by her behavior and that seriously off-putting way she deflects any question that friends are exposed to incredibly limited intelligence by laughing like a stoned hyena, is a complete simpleton whose only reason for being vice president is that she's a person of color. That's literally the only reason she was installed in place. Since Nancy Pelosi is not stupid enough to show her hand as being the controller in charge by putting herself into the VP slot and thus instantly exposing the Democratic conspiracy outright. Kamala cannot even be trusted to make a minimal effort. She utterly walked away from the illegal immigration fiasco that erupted in the US-Mexican border. You see, socialists seem to have this belief in legitimizing trespassing. I've seen it happen in Australia when the Aussie white Obama, Kevin Rudd, completely dismantled our border protection back in 2007, causing a massive problem with illegal immigrants making their way to our shores, and those death-trapped, rusty, repurposed fishing boats. Not to mention consistent reports of Harris's universal unlikability amongst the staff. But 2021 wasn't all doom and gloom, at least on the legal side of things. Two things happened that proved that all was not lost in the American legal system. First off, Kyle Rittenhouse, a really nice kid with strong morals and obviously no pushover when it comes to going toe-to-toe with those nasty socialist terrorists that call themselves BLM, was on trial for shooting dead 2 BLM terrorists and disarming a third by crippling his arm from a well-placed rifle shot. Something that led everyone in the left-wing media, CNN, MSNBC, those idiot bitches on the third-string bargain basement talk show The Real Talk, and even Biden himself, to call him a murderer and all sorts of nasty epithets. The truth was that Rittenhouse was only defending himself against those terrorists, who consisted of an extremely dangerous, mentally ill 5-time child rapist, a domestic abuser, and the one that survived a career armed robber. The court proved him right, and everyone on the left suffered a massive black eye, and some serious repercussions when the time comes for Rittenhouse to go after those idiots and sue them into oblivion for defamation of character. The Kenosha kid even sent a very nicely worded polite warning to Biden to watch what he says. I wish Kyle Rittenhouse the best of luck in his life, and I hope he gets very, very rich from those lawsuits he plans to file. A little joke. A child rapist, a white beater, and an armed robber walking to a bar. Kyle says, shots on me. The second massive legal defeat for the left came in the conviction of one of the most pathetic individuals in Hollywood, gay African-American third-rate actor Jussie Smollett, over charges of staging a fake hate crime. You know, the one where he claimed that a pair of Nigerian Trump supporters tried to hang him with a piece of linguine, a noose, while he was going out into the coldest night in Chicago history to grab a Subway sandwich and some eggs, while they were alleged to be chanting "This is mega country." As if that hopelessly stupid and pathetic story wasn't in any way the slightest bit plausible. That was used by the left to spread some nasty rumors about Trump's supporters, and ultimately led to Trump's downfall. Smollett is such a pathetic liar, so pathetic in fact that the jury let him off on one of the 6 charges, because they felt so sorry for how pathetic it was, which means he got a 3-year discount on his prison sentence. Those amoebas on the Real Talk embarrassed themselves again by being on Jussie's side, and the only thing to note now is that technically Jussie's so full of it, will be sharing a prison cell with his attacker, himself, no matter which cell they use, even solitary confinement. That being said, at least give Jussie some credit. Imagine scam the Nigerians for a change. Now, I won't go into the rise of the trans movement, mainly the insanely stupid TikTok videos, and the disturbing development of the workers trying to legitimize child sexual abuse by calling pederasts maps. Since this is something that is only in its infancy as a movement right now, it will get worse in 2022, believe me. But I will note that 2021 is the second year in a row that I have not gone to the cinema to watch a single movie even once, since lockdowns and the utter lack of anything worthy to watch has severely limited my selection. But hopefully I will try to see Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City theatrically if I can, but if that one doesn't pan out, I'll wait for the DVD. Info director Johannes Roberts isn't that great given his early films from 20 years ago. I reviewed Dark Hunters before and that one was bad, but from what I've been hearing it's at least comparable to the first 2 Resident Evil movies that Paul W.S. Anderson made in terms of quality. Expect me to review that film sometime in 2023 or 2024, depending on when I get to the Resident Evil phase of my reviews. The year 2021 was so awful that even in its last hours, the year went out giving the world a loud "fuck you assholes" by claiming the life of Betty White, the legendary last surviving member of the classic 1980s sitcom The Golden Girls, and who was only a couple of weeks away from turning a century old. Loved watching that show from time to time, and Betty's St. Olive stories were consistently awesomely hilarious. She had an interview with Fox News the day before her death, which you should all track down and watch. The lady's all class. Anyway, I said all I need to say here. And I hope that 2022 turns out to be a good deal better than 2021 has been. And I hope all of you, even those evil socialists out there, have a much better shot at life this year. Thanks for watching, and keep watching the Apatros Review. I've got one whole new season of reviews coming up this year, starting from a couple of days from now. So, hope you guys will stay safe, take it easy, and keep watching.